And welcome into the Monday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you? What's going on? Glad to have you with me again here on this Monday morning.
Yeah, good to be in here. Doing all right. Happy birthday to Nick Keyser.
Yes.
I didn't realize Keyser's yesterday and I'm tomorrow. I didn't realize, I guess, that we're this close together.
Yeah, so a happy early birthday
Not
to
in
you.
year.
Well, I thought,
thanks. Not in year.
I thought we had taken a show pact like a couple years ago to never mention Rexrode's birthday again because he hates it entirely.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. Maybe now that I'm, getting deeper into the 50s, it's time to celebrate. It's time to really get excited.
Well, boy, do I have a good birthday present
tomorrow
for you two. We get to talk about the Titans and the Jags today, and we've got Paul Kuharski coming up later in the show. Happy birthday to both of you.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, what a joy. Well, you know what? Actually, it is good to have PK though. You're sometimes you're feeling old. You can get reminded that there are people much older and crankier and falling apart than you.
I hope he had a great time at Jacksonville yesterday. I'm looking forward to hearing about his experience down there with dozens of others, I might add.
He took that picture I sent you guys was taken by him, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
He took the picture for, maybe we should put this on the Twitter feed, Nick.
Probably should.
The picture of the Jacksonville urinal where
The toilet bowl?
yeah, well, the urinal that is like
the game itself was the toilet bowl.
an inch from the sink, so that with no barrier. So, it's just the weirdest thing ever.
I don't think it's that uncommon, honestly. Maybe not.
I've never seen it before. You show me another.
It's a little bit much.
It is a little strange,
Yeah.
but I don't know how uncommon it really is.
No divider.
I mean, I've been in a million bathrooms.
And you don't
man.
really see them?
I've never. Dude,
not
it's
like
right,
that.
It's right. The urinal and sink are right next to each other. There's no border. Like urinals next to each other, sure.
Yeah.
So people are doing the same thing. But when you got someone doing one thing and then someone trying to clean their hands after doing that same thing, and they're that close to each other,
I mean,
this is not a common thing.
This is the same organization that apparently had this graphic of their mascot fighting Will Levis yesterday
And lost.
on a video game and lost in the pregame. So that's who we're dealing with here. And oh, by the way, that's who the Titans just got swept by, is that organization. So how does that make you feel if you're a Titans fan today?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, but if you're a Titans fan today, I mean, if you're watching that game, wouldn't you have been ticked off if your team actually ended up winning it at this point?
I think so. Yes.
Right?
I
mean, at this point, you're hate watching them, right? And I don't blame anybody for hate watching
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Titans lose 20-13 to Jacksonville, which means they've been swept by Mac Jones and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jags improved to 4-12. Titans dropped to 3-13. So good for you, Titans fans. You've fallen below Jacksonville in terms of the draft order there, so that's good stuff. We're going to get into that more specifically here in just a few minutes. Some notes from the game yesterday, Joe. Mason Rudolph, 19 of 31, 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Tyjae Spears playing in the game and getting a significant role before he got hurt. Tony Pollard not available in this one, so he finishes with 20 carries, 95 yards in this game. Calvin Ridley leading the way with 5 catches for 85 yards. Most of those coming on like the last drive as well for Calvin Ridley. So not a whole lot going on offensively in yesterday's game. And again, Mac Jones, 15 of 22, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Quarterback rating of 122.2 for old Mac Jones yesterday.
Yeah, they did at times make him look good. I mean, most of the day he didn't do a lot, but they had the one drive where everything went right for them. They made some plays. It is quite an embarrassment to be swept by Mac Jones. I will say on the positive front, in terms of looking at the Titans and what it means moving forward. I was interested yesterday to see Tyjae Spears with that opportunity. With Tony Pollard, I guess it's ankle, but also flu. And I know Kuharski tweeted that he was going to be out anyway, but regardless, he's out. So Spears gets the game. Because look, he's obviously been overshadowed and kind of passed over, but I thought that was an encouraging thing. I mean, he looked like a guy who can play yesterday. Like he's a guy who's good enough to be in a 2-back situation. And yeah, he's the lesser of the 2 backs this year, but I thought that was a nice thing. So there you go. I found you a holiday
Well,
positive.
you
for the
told me on
Titans.
Friday you're gonna cherish this game. You're
Huh?
gonna cherish Titans and
There's one
Jacksonville.
left.
There's only a certain amount of football we got left in this whole thing,
That's right.
much less just the Titan season. So I'm glad you watched every snap yesterday with bated breath. It was good stuff.
I did. And another thing that I came away with, Brownlee gets beat. And it's tough for him. I still think it's been a good season for him. Thomas is a player.
He's a stud.
Thomas and Neighbors, and we're going to get more into Neighbors and what he did to the freaking Colts.
Yeah.
The bleep show that they are, but pretty good combo. I mean, is LSU is receiver U now, right?
I mean, yeah.
They already probably were with Chase and Jefferson, but now you got these two guys, and they are living up to it.
Thomas has 1,179 yards and 10 touchdowns this year on that team.
Yeah, he's a serious,
He's
he's
really
a
good.
legit dude. And it's funny because that's where it gets interesting when you guys are on the same team. Sometimes, you're like, I'm sure Neighbors is quite a bit better than Thomas, watching them last year. But then somebody were like, yeah, I don't know. Hey, look at Thomas as a prospect. And yeah, you can see that there. So there's some positive for Jacksonville. Both teams have some nice excitements going on. Too bad for the Jags that they blew their draft positioning.
Yes, I'm sure that they're but they got their quarterback. Who cares? Their quarterback's locked up long term.
Yep.
Really going really well for them too.
Yep, they do that. And I don't know. I mean, you got I think a lame duck coach, right? I think he's going to be gone.
Think so. Yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if not.
Actually, a pretty amazing halftime interview. Did you see that with
I did not.
Well, yeah, Peterson it was like a laughing question about this is the first time you've had a double-digit lead like all year, I think she said. I don't know. It was something, and he was just like, yeah, boy, Peterson.
Than us.
But Doug can go out, knowing that he swept the Titans.
Yes,
so
I'm sure.
Feel good about that. That does not happen often. I believe TD tweeted this is the third time ever that this has happened.
Yeah, it's not a very common occurrence that the Titans get swept by Jacksonville, but that's what you're dealing with right now. They're 3-13. There's one game left on the season. By the way, I'm looking on ESPN.com right now, and it gives you an option for tickets when you're looking at the team's schedule. And you can apparently find tickets for the Titans and Texans next weekend for as low as $6.
Oh, it's down to $6.
According to ESPN.com.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yesterday someone pointed out that it's at $7, so it's down to $6 now. Yeah, good to know.
I would also love to know, because I think you probably could have done this by halfway through the first quarter yesterday, like going to hand count how many people were in that stadium yesterday live watching Titans Jags in the middle of a rainstorm to begin that game. I would love to know how many people were actually there in attendance.
Yeah.
I don't know what they reported were there. I would love to know the actual butts and seats there.
Well, our friend Andrew tweeted that they announced in the press box like 68,000, and the whole press box busted out laughing.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
Full house.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody in the Milky Pool? They never showed it. At least I didn't see it.
I did not see any shots of the Milky Pool. By the way, just on the bathroom front, Texter says, I DoorDash, so I use a lot of different restrooms. I think you'd be surprised by how many men don't wash their hands. Now, look, man, don't wash their hands.
That's a separate issue.
That's been a multi-rant,
yeah.
and I continue to at times come across that, and it just continues to just like we're all going to die. Stop it.
But hey, at least in most bathrooms, when you do wash your hands, you've got at least a few feet from you in the urinal, maybe a divider.
Yeah. I mean, if the choice was, let me wash my hands and hope I don't get some splatter coming from the left. Okay. I still would do it, but I guess I'd be real quick with it.
Yeah.
A little less thorough.
Wouldn't be the most detailed washing
like,
the hands.
Get the water, run out of there, but still do something.
Yep. Titans scored 3 points in the first half yesterday. They did score 10 in the second half. So improvement from the first to the second half, not something we've seen very often over the course of the last 3 years. So there's another positive you want to reach to. 13 points in total for the Titans, which also seems like a very familiar number. They've done that a few times as well. 20-13. I mean, really the biggest positive I have for you, if you're a Titans fan out there, is we only got one more of these. Just buckle in, baby. Just one more. This time next week, this sucker will be over.
And by the way, yeah, it's $6 get in. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but it's the Texans coming in. The Titans going to be wearing those Oilers unis.
Yes.
Those sweet, awesome, some of the best uniforms ever created. And they're going to wear those for this game.
Yep.
And just like the total picture of a disastrous season with like nobody in the stands. And what if they just get rolled by the Texans?
By my guy, Davis Mills.
Yeah. That's the thing. The Texans have nothing, right, to play for. Like they are locked in. Aren't they locked in? Are they locked in their seating or are they not locked in?
They are locked in to their seating.
So they're the
fourth.
They're the 4.
Yeah.
They're locked into the 4.
Yeah.
So they couldn't care less.
That's correct.
What a beautiful thing.
By the way, I'm looking on my weather app right now. It's going to be 46 with a 72% chance of rain.
Oh,
so
great.
get excited, Titans fans. Woo!
Wow.
Got
A
a chance to be
fitting
an
way for it to
all-timer.
end. Yeah.
Got a chance to be an all-timer on Sunday against Houston. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. There was one gigantic positive that came out of the Titans loss yesterday. We'll get more into that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 The Game.
fans are going to talk about draft stock and value of winning next week. Just kind of what is your message to people who are talking about that?
That's for you guys to talk about. We don't talk about that. It's not something I ever talk to the team about. It's not something I think about. That's all for news and clicks and conversation, and we're focused on trying to go play one more football game this year and try to win it. And that's all I really focus on and all I really put my energy towards. The rest of it is what it is, and we'll talk about the draft at another time.
Brian Callahan ain't worried about the news, ain't worried about the clicks, ain't worried about the draft position. One more football game to go play, baby. You're going to try to beat the Houston Texans at home next week.
Hey, man, say whatever you want. But if Brian Callahan sweeps the Houston Texans in his rookie year as Titans coach, I mean, what if that was the only thing that you knew about this season? You know, if they win Sunday, and that's the only thing that anybody knew, the Titans will sweep the Texans. What would you think?
Well, I mean, you playing in the parade.
Just about.
Based
I
on the
mean,
way people
Amy
were talking
may
about the
still
Texans
have a
before the
parade
year.
if they just get those
That's
two
what I was
wins.
about to
You
say.
know?
I mean, I'm halfway joking, but I'm like leaving the door open. Would he get a contract extension if they beat the
A
Texans?
little bit of a raise, yeah, a little Christmas bonus at least, something.
Brian, you did a great job. Here's some more money for you. All right. We'll see you next year. Make sure you beat Houston again. Especially if they do it in those jerseys. My goodness. I didn't even factor that in. Do it in the Oilers jerseys?
I must say, you know, I love those jerseys. Like I said, maybe you might want to be a little more discerning if you own this team about which team you let wear these jerseys. Like, maybe this team doesn't need to wear these jerseys.
There's
You know?
a certain threshold you've got to
Yeah.
get to.
Yeah, you know, like have that as like a carrot that you dangle. Like, if you're not one of the absolute worst teams in the league, which right now is in position to draft second, as we're about to talk about, then you can wear these jerseys.
So that is the giant positive from the Titans' loss yesterday. Some other results around the league, including your result against Jacksonville, has led to you now with the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft if the season were to end today, which means if you lose to the Houston Texans on Sunday, the Tennessee Titans are guaranteed to pick no lower than second in the NFL draft, which that is the only solace I have for you at this point. If you're a Titans fan, and you're going to get a high draft pick, and you helped yourself out tremendously by losing that game to Jacksonville yesterday. Some other results around the league have vaulted other teams up around you, and now you're number 2. I mean, I guess, you know, I remember, Joe, when they did this, when they beat the mighty New England Patriots in overtime, we did get a lot of people calling in the next day saying, well, what'd they do that for? Why'd they beat the Patriots? It could end up costing them a draft spot next year. And right now, had you lost that Patriots game, you'd be at number 1.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens next week. But right now, if you lose to Houston, no worse than second in the draft is what you'll be if you're the Titans.
So, and here's again, I talk about this a lot, but this is one of the reasons that I do love this league and this sport is, you know, these players and coaches, especially the players, like Jeff Simmons. I love what he said last week. You know, we've picked apart a lot of things Jeff Simmons said. I love what he said last week. If anybody ever came to me about losing a game, I'd say, get me out of here right now. And I mean, I don't think he's BSing at all. You know what players say in locker rooms? Draft pick? Oh, so that's the guy taking your job.
Right.
You want us to get a higher pick so he can take your job? Screw you. He's not taking my job. And that's what they do. They absolutely love savaging these. So I look at the Patriots and Gerard Mayo, where apparently their fans are chanting Vrabel in the stands.
I saw that.
They're playing the Bills, who now have clinched the 2. They could win.
Absolutely.
They will try their butts off to win. These teams are going to try as hard as they can. Like Wes in Clarksville, text line, driven by WilsonHighlight.com, says, I got a feeling we're going to beat the Texans, screw up our draft order just so Amy can be happy to beat the Texans. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what Amy wants. I promise you, Wes. Like, these players are trying to win. They're bad. They're a bad team. But, like, they really want to win. I watched the Giants yesterday just completely screw everything up. Shedeur Sanders is wearing cleats with the Giants on them, and they went out and smoked the Colts. I mean, that's one thing I love about this league is, like, they actually are all trying all the way to the end. They're trying to stay in the league. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is a beautiful thing. By the way, Titans are 4.5-point favorites against the Texans.
That's amazing.
4.5-point favorites.
Well, how many people is D'Amico Ryans not playing in this game? Like, how much of a ragtag, USFL team are we going to be seeing here Sunday?
This is where we need everybody to pull together and get behind my guy, Davis Mills.
Yes.
Need a lot of support for my guy this week. As we know, long neck on that guy. He can handle it. He can handle people jumping on his back. It'll be fine.
You haven't had, you haven't had many opportunities or any opportunities. Really,
I haven't had
to
any
talk
opportunities,
about
but
this
my
guy.
God, am I going to do it this week? I'm so much looking forward to it. He better be playing on Sunday. I don't even know if he's playing, but I assume that he is.
I mean, he's their QB too.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, I mean,
They're not going Stroud, are they?
I mean, that would be completely idiotic.
I
to
agree.
me.
I agree.
But hey, don't worry, because Dan Caroline like, we're gonna beat the Niners, and it's like, well, you could lose by 50, and you're either gonna get the 1 seed against the Vikings, or you're gonna get the 5 seed and lose. Yeah, get some more guys hurt tonight and beating the Niners, get revenge. I mean, just okay.
So does that feel better if you're a Titans fan that you're slowly moving up? You got the opportunity for the one, as you said. Like it's Patriots and Bills. It's an interesting setup that they've got, with Buffalo locking up their destiny yesterday by just totally demolishing the New York Jets. Good call by you in Pigskin Pick'em.
Thank you.
And now you've got the Titans
my lock.
taking on a Texans team that also has their postseason destiny kind of locked up here. So what does that look like? And if you end up losing the game, you're going to be in a spot where we're going to be talking about Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward. What's that going to look like? Basically for the next 4 months here, as the final score, if it goes the way that I think Titans fans hope next week, the Titans finish this sucker off 3-14, you will be no worse than second, and we'll be having the Ward versus Sanders debate all offseason.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, first of all, again, in all seriousness, I think the Titans are 4.5-point favorites. Like, there's a real chance that they win this game. They are going to try,
which might end up being the most Titans thing of all time.
Yeah. But the coaches and players,
I have no doubt they're going to try.
100% all in on winning this game.
Absolutely.
Like we just talked about. So put it out of your mind that there's anything but full desire to do it. Will they find a way to lose? I don't know. But if they do, then yeah, it's going to make for a lot more fun offseason.
Yeah.
Not just if you're a Titans fan, because obviously you want the best possible player, but even just like for us to just consider the possibilities. I mean, you're talking about, and again, like I said, like it is, I absolutely put on the table that they could get the one. What are the Bills going to do? Who's the Bills' backup QB?
I have no idea.
I mean, it's the same thing with them. It's a very similar situation with these two teams. They're playing two AFC playoff teams that already have their positions locked in. They're not going to get anybody hurt for the playoffs if they can help it. You have to play some players. You can't just completely replace.
It's Mitch Trubisky. They're going to win. It's
Big
Trubisky.
Mitch.
Mitch.
Okay. So you got Trubisky, Davis Mills, and then you got the Patriots and Titans. I mean, look, it's year one for Mayo and for Callahan, and I think they're both coming back. And we're going to talk about that too.
We are.
But still, like, those guys need these wins. So it's actually kind of a fascinating last week in terms of, how it's all going to play out. Titans could end up with a 1, and they could end up falling down to like 7 or 8, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And that's this draft, man, because if you can be 1 or 2, then you have a chance. To me, yes, you could take, if you think like Hunter is generational, and I think he's great. I think he's great. You could do that. You could obviously take your QB, but you probably right now you're having second pick. Well, no, I should amend that. Well,
it depends on what
I
the
think
Patriots
the Patriots will probably
do.
trade out.
They would probably trade out.
Unless they think Hunter's generational, right? But regardless, then you might have the possibility of getting a haul, trading down, getting your quarterback, or getting like a premium player, and it could be Abdul Carter too. Or, be down at like 7 and, whatever.
Yeah.
Get somebody.
It's still the fact that they're 3-13 and there's still like this wide of a range of possibility as to what could happen here in the last week is pretty incredible. Like there's a lot of bad football teams in the league right now.
Well, it's really weird because there are, and there's also, we might be looking at 2 14-2 teams playing for a 1. One of them's going to get the 5. Your Packers are going to be they might be 12-5, get the 7.
Yeah.
It's like extreme. The extremes are way more extreme this year than normally we see in the NFL. I don't know what that means. If it's just a weird oddity, but it is strange.
And then there's like Kansas City's 15-1. You got a 15-1 team, a 14-2 team in Minnesota, another 14-2 team potentially tonight Like there's a wide level of extremes on both sides of it right now.
And the Titans, they're clearly on one
They're
side of that.
Very clearly on one side. Some interesting news as it relates to Brian Callahan and the coaching staff that came out over the weekend. We'll get into some of the wording of that coming up next, which I found to be extremely interesting. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 the game. Titans lose 20-13 yesterday to Jacksonville. They fall to 3-13 on the season. Currently scheduled to pick number 2 in the NFL draft. We'll see if they can finish the job on that front next week with a loss to the Houston Texans. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Let's head back to our 102.5 the game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Kenny the mailman. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, good friends. How are y'all?
Doing great, Kenny. How are you?
I wanted to compliment on y'all talking about the draft and the draft picks and everything. That is totally 100% logical. When you take a lot of feelings out of it, that's really the only way you can look at it, except you have to realize you're turning it over to people that's proven they can't pick. No matter what position they're in, they cannot pick. They pick, oh, we're going to pick a dynamic lineman who just mauls people. Oh, we just discovered his arm's too short. We can't let him play tackle. We're going to pick a quarterback. Oh, he can throw it a mile. He's book smart. And gets on the field, and somehow he's so amped up his vision, he can't see. He just throws it anywhere. Then they pick a dynamic receiver a few years ago, and he gets here and they find out he has asthma. It's like you're turning it over to people who can't do or you're expecting them to do. If y'all could speak about that a little bit.
Yep.
Y'all have a great, great week.
Thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it, man. Yep. Well, I mean,
I've never really contested Kenny before, but the Burks pick was the previous regime.
the Burks one was. Now, Skoronski, I think clearly, even though I think he has improved this year, it was clearly drafted too high. There's no doubt about that.
He's also still one of the best picks of the Titans of the last, more than half decade.
Which
but yes,
does not speak well.
No,
for
it
what
does
they've
not.
done. Latham, I still think long term has a chance to be good. I would say the totality of the season has been way up, way down, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it. He's in the top 5 in terms of sacks allowed and all that. How much of do you weigh that compared to some other tackles around the league when you're talking about a rookie playing left tackle for the first time? We'll see. But I think there's promise there, but it has not been, some straight linear path of improvement from J.C. Latham throughout the year this year. So, I understand the thought process of, do these guys know what they're doing, which is basically a version of the question we've been asking for the last 2 months here.
I would still, I would still argue that the drafting has been the best part of what they've done. Not that it's great. And by the way, if we're going to go by the PFF stuff, Skoronski actually has been really good for the last month plus. Take that or leave it. I mostly leave PFF stuff. I will say I have noticed him with my own PFF grades. It looks all right out there.
Yeah, he looks a lot better.
He
was a disaster the first month of the year this year.
Yes. So now, and also, Kenny there, they I think the real criticism of that pick is not that they realized he has short arms and that we're going to play him at tackle. They knew he had short arms. They drafted him as a guard. So the criticism is, why at 11 are you intentionally taking a guard, right? I'm sorry, a guard,
yes.
Which is, look, that's a totally fair criticism. But yeah, look, when it comes down to it, yeah, you have this great pick and this whole, oh my God, are we going to let these people do it? Well, I think so. I think you are.
I think so.
So buckle up.
There's more kind of reporting to that effect over the weekend heading into the Titans and Jags game. So at NFL.com, Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport kind of went through some of the hot seats around the NFL and some teams with current job openings as well. Kind of did a brief synopsis on where things stand with those teams. And here's what they wrote under the Tennessee Titans section of this piece. Quote, "It's been a trying season for the Titans with a string of close early losses, underwhelming and at times confounding quarterback play, and a 3-12 record heading into Sunday's game against Jacksonville. But first-year head coach Brian Callahan and the bulk of his staff are expected to return. Internally, there is a feeling Callahan has shown long-term promise and the team has improved. The expectation next season is that'll be reflected more on the field and the scoreboard. Fixing the QB position, former second-round pick Will Levis was benched in December as job number 1. Titans have other issues too, including fixing a special teams unit that was a major liability early in the season. Some staff changes are possible." Yeah, the early in the season is very generous on that one for the special teams liability, but that just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I
When
mean,
it comes to-
it was mind-boggling early.
It
It's
was.
not that anymore, but yeah.
But the kind of the meat of it there, and what I kind of raised my eyebrows with, quote, internally there is a feeling Callahan has shown long-term promise and that the team has improved. The expectation next season is that'll be reflected more on the field and the scoreboard. That was the quote that generated a lot of reaction on Titans Twitter this weekend.
Yeah, where has the team improved? I mean, I feel like
struggle to find it.
I would argue that the best football the Tennessee Titans have played might be, and I understand the Bears end up being trash, but like might be the first, 40 minutes of that game, right? Like the best football they played might have been like where it's like, wow, they're flying around on D. They look good on O. Levis making some good throws and running the ball. They're winning on the road in this hugely anticipated debut of the number 1 pick. I think that's maybe the best football they played all year.
It might be.
That was the week 1.
Yeah. I mean,
and then the quarterback gave it away.
you could point to, I guess, on the road at Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
that was a very good performance. And then they totally bottomed out after
that's
that.
the thing. Like they're playing to close out the season probably worse than they ever have at any point this year. So like it's very difficult for me to get behind they feel like they're improving. It's like, okay. Well, you can feel however you want to feel. The truth is the truth. Like the numbers are what they are. So I would love to know internally where the feeling of improvement is coming from. Like, where are you improving? Like, when it talks about long-term promise, like that's way more subjective. And if you feel like he's shown long-term promise, then whatever. But the improvement, it's like the team has improved. Really? Where's that happening? Because I've missed that. I've not seen that.
Yeah, there's certainly no linear or steady improvement. Look, I suppose, and this is kind of like what we talked about with Levis, right? When he came back, like, well, here's where you set the bar, Will, at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's better than that. I guess you could say, well, special teams is not a weekly holy crap anymore.
And
so
keep in
congrats.
mind, this was written before the Jacksonville game, in a game where they gave up 335 yards on the ground to the Colts. That was the last performance they had when this thing was written.
Yeah, I think you've seen every type of bad from this team. You haven't seen linear improvement. Again, I don't think you've seen fireable performance. Like for me, with a year 1 coach, but yeah, to me, it's like you're keeping him because it's year 1 and you believe, again, you believe that he's a smart guy. You believe he has good ideas. You believe he was hamstrung by his roster and by his QB. That's it. You don't need this improvement this year. That's a hard sell for anybody who's actually watched this team play.
It's like, wow. I guess I just don't know a whole lot of football. I'm missing a whole lot of improvement going out there with the Titans.
You don't know ball.
Yeah.
Now, there was an interesting piece, Easton Freeze wrote A to Z
Yes.
Sports, and it's interesting. It's a little bit of, taking the numbers and, doing what you want with them. But I mean, it was good analysis, which is basically if you take away the turnover stuff and the QB performance, a lot of metrics of this offense look decent, look okay. I mean, what has come down to, and that goes with this report, which is basically like we've talked about. I mean, when it comes down to it, Will Levis takes the fall for this year.
Yeah.
Now, Mason Rudolph, he's really, he's a little better than Will Levis, but overall, it's not much.
He's
better.
not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very good. So the QB play takes the fall for the year. And also, as mentioned in that report, Cole Anderson takes the fall too. When you're talking about staff changes, you have to do something. That will be one of them.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what else they do. But the QB play takes the fall. So then you get into, okay, well, I would tend to agree that he was the worst. I mean, he deserves more than anything else, maybe right there with offensive line, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's close, Offensive line is consistently bad. I think he had some better games by himself than the offensive line ever did.
I would agree.
But it's close. It's the quarterback's most important position. But then you get into, so Brian Callahan, excited to have him, QB developer, et cetera, et cetera. So then how much do you looking at it? What it comes down to, he's going to be back. And whoever they get for the next QB, obviously if it's a rookie, it's way more of a referendum on him as a quarterback developer.
Yeah.
But even if it's a veteran, it just better be way better. It has to be quickly.
Well, and then again, it also comes to, the Carthon part of this too, which it looks like, PK has been telling us for a couple weeks. Like the expectation is that everybody's going to be back. And by everybody, I'm talking about the main pieces: Brinker, Carthon, Callahan. I'm sure there will be some staff changes. Like Colt Anderson is probably not going to be special teams coach. I'm interested to see what they do with Nick Holtz too. Like, is he going to be the offensive coordinator, or could you find a better option? I know some people will say, well, he's not calling plays anyway, so who cares? It matters. Like it does.
Yeah, how does it not matter?
It does matter. So I'm interested to see what they do there. But like, this is another thing where if you're going to do this, that's fine. Like, that's your prerogative. You have to realize that a large portion of your fan base is either going to be irate that you're doing this at the end of the year, or they're just going to be like, well, you just call me when you guys are done with this stuff, or when you get a new quarterback, one of the two. Like that, just the idea that I can see this happening, that they lose, they get to the number 2 overall pick this time next week. Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon are coming back. Rand has a 10-minute press conference at the end of the season, and that's all we hear from the Titans brass until the combine. Like I could see that happening right now, and I just don't know that's going to go over very well with this fan base.
That might be optimistic. Will he?
I mean, he may not. I don't know. That may be too optimistic. Let me tell you what, if that doesn't happen, then we're really going to be in for an off season here. Like if you just say, all right, Rand will talk at the combine. See you guys in March.
Yeah.
Sure. Like, what are Titans fans going to do then?
Well, they're going to be upset. I think that, and rightfully so, and it's, it would be ridiculous. It's going to come down to if it's all back like it appears it will be. Again, not source guessing or anything like that, but the Titans have clearly wanted it out there that things aren't changing. And I know that what happened last year happened, but for the most part, when you do stuff like that, last year remember, it was a volatile personal thing with Amy and Vrabel, you know? So, and if there's one thing you can say about these guys, I think they get along just great. They get along with her, and everybody's just
I hope everybody's
just
enjoying that.
Yeah.
I hope it's going well.
But I mean, that's like, it was the personal stuff was a huge part of how that flipped.
Yes.
And I don't expect it. There's nothing like that's going to change it this year. Right. So, the interesting thing about people being upset, you're right. I mean, like, obviously Jared's going to lose his, as soon as the day that we know, like, nothing's happening, it's just going to be 4 hours of, yeah, right. But I will say that if you did the other thing and whatever, you fired them all, fired someone or whatever, I do think that there's actually a bigger part of the fan base. This is my theory, that it isn't very loud right now. That would actually be more. I think there would be more Titans fans upset.
I totally disagree with that. I think that there is so much bad with this group right now. The majority of Titans fans would be fine with a switch.
Yeah. I mean, it's impossible.
It's hard.
I mean, we can't.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that at all.
I can't prove my theory, but I do. But again, remember, then you're totally putting the onus on Amy, right?
Yeah.
Which is, why did you hire these people in the first place?
I mean,
then what are you doing? Why would this franchise is screwed?
But is there not? I mean, that's what they are right now, right? Like
well,
that,
the product's
I have the same thoughts of that right now. Like, this franchise is screwed. Like, I don't feel any differently about that.
Yeah.
Than you would if you made that move.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Titans fans are there right now. Like, yeah, we're screwed. Fun stuff.
I think a lot of them are yes, but I mean, look, either way, whatever the decision is, there's going to be outrage.
Oh yeah,
right. Whatever the percentages are, there's going to be outrage.
We'll have more on the Titans coming up next. What do you make of the idea that Callahan, his staff, expected to come back next year, and that the team has improved? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. NFL.com putting it out there. This is from Tom Pelissero and Ian Rappaport. Internally, a feeling that Callahan has shown long-term promise and that the team has improved. The expectation next season is that that'll be reflected more on the field and on the scoreboard as well. So, bracing for Brian Callahan to be back. Grant Carthon, I guess, to be back. Although, as people pointed out, you always have to leave some room for some craziness in the Monday and Tuesday after the season. So I will leave room for that next week. But assuming, just for the sake of this conversation, that that's the path forward here and that you've got Callahan back, Carthon back, and next year is obviously critical for both of those guys. I'm really interested to see what they do here at quarterback, because we've talked about the veteran quarterback option being the most likely outcome, and that was when the Titans were picking 5th overall or 6th overall. Like if they get up to 2nd, or if they get if they get 1st, if they're the 1st overall pick in the draft this year, I'm interested to see how they weigh that decision. Like, what are the pros and cons of just going ahead, sticking at number 1 overall, and picking a quarterback, be that a Shedeur Sanders, a Cam Ward, whoever? Or do they look at the situation and say, with the roster currently as is, we'd be better served with a veteran quarterback? Like, does where they land in the draft order influence what they do and what their plan is for quarterback next season? Going to be interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you end up there, it's like, okay, it's there for you. So, and again, as PK's pointed out, and it's been an interesting, I've saw some little bit of back and forth on social media with PK and TD on the conversation from last week. Again, as PK said, and Brian Callahan was asked about this too, like the draft. He's like, huh? The draft? What?
Yeah.
No, which is, of course, exactly how it should be. You sure hope not. But if you get one of those, then it's got to be all hands on deck. Like, okay, both of these guys, because who knows? Sometimes you get an idea. I mean, I guess there was some reporting that the Giants were all in on Shedeur, right? Is that true?
I mean, great job by them yesterday. So.
hey, good for them, man. Again, good. I love all these players in these teams are like draft schmaft. Screw you, dude.
Exactly.
Give a crap about your freaking draft pick. They just absolutely smoked the Colts. Just an amazing thing. But it should be all hands on deck, right? To try to figure out as much as you can about whether it's worthwhile to draft one of those guys. And yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe, and then if they happen to win Sunday, which I just have a feeling they will, if they happen to win Sunday and they end up drafted 7th, then it's okay. Then the veteran QB thing just
makes a lot more sense.
You have to do almost, right?
Look, I can make the argument. And matter of fact, I think this is the argument I probably would make. I don't know that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward are really worth the number 1 and number 2 overall pick. I just don't know that they are. Now, given the position that they play and the other options at that position this year, they're probably going to go that high or close to that high, depending on what the order falls. So then the question becomes okay, well, is that smart? Just because those two guys are the best of this class, does that mean that they're worthy of you spending the number 1 or number 2 overall pick on them at the quarterback spot, right?
Usually that's how you get in trouble.
Right. That's usually not a very good idea. So, look, I realize I've said it 1,000 times, until you fix quarterback, it's hard to go anywhere in this league. And the veteran options, there's not a whole lot of good ones. But what you can't have happen either is you don't want to just be well, good, we're picking 1st or 2nd overall, so we have to go quarterback now. And it's that's how you get yourself in just long-term trouble. And that doesn't just affect you next year. That affects you 3-4 years down the road when you do it that high.
Yeah. I'm almost tempted to say just do what you can do with the veteran plan. But again, that might be bad. You might not be able to do anything worthwhile there.
You need to be convinced that a Sanders or a Ward are studs, are guys that can come in and change your franchise around. And Not that the draft conversation, like, the gurus and their opinion on things is the be all end all, because those guys are wrong all the time too. But like, it's just not, there's not people not very high on this quarterback class. And we talked about that a few years ago when Kenny Pickett was the quarterback that was taken first. Nobody was high on that class either. And they ended up being exactly right. Like, that quarterback class was awful.
Yeah. Now these two guys are definitely
Better than that. Yes.
Yeah. The two here at the top are definitely much more highly regarded than anybody in that class. Pickett looked okay yesterday, by the way. Till he got hurt again.
Did you see the one play where he went to go throw the ball and it looked like he changed his mind halfway through? I'll have to show you the clip.
No, I missed that one.
It's maybe the funniest clip from an NFL quarterback I've ever seen. I'll have to show it to you.
He's also he had the best fake slide ever
In history. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, which shouldn't be allowed, but still, that was awesome. Yeah, look, it's a good, you want to be in the position of, you have that as an option. You definitely do. And by the way, you could sign a veteran QB and still do that.
You could.
I mean, none of your veteran QB signings are like, okay, let's say it was a Cousins or a Carr. Okay, still. And then you still believe that one of those guys, there you go. There's your two QBs. You start the year with Carr, and then Sanders at some point is going to end up being the guy. Sure.
Yeah.
Now, granted, then the rest of your team is woefully unaddressed and all that stuff. But that's also a possibility that you can't rule out.
Nope, we'll have more on this coming up next. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans. 615-737-1025. Coming up next hour, some Vols hitting the transfer portal at one position specifically. We'll get into that as well. And PK will be with us at 7:30. His thoughts on all things Titans as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us later this hour at 7:30. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up at 7:45. Corey Curtis from News 2 will be with us at 8 o'clock. We'll also get into the Vols and the transfer portal a little bit later this hour, coming up here in about 10 minutes as well. So looking forward to all that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Titans lose 20-13 yesterday in Jacksonville. They are swept by the Jags. Titans fall to 3-13 on the season. And if they lose this Sunday to Houston, they are guaranteed to pick no worse than second overall in the NFL draft. And that's led to an interesting discussion. It looks like at the moment the winds are blowing that Brian Callahan, the majority of his staff, will be back for next season. I would assume Carthon back for next season as well, and you're keeping this thing in place at least for another year. We'll see what ends up happening this time next week when the season is done and the dust starts to settle a little bit. But it leads to an interesting discussion, like, where do you go from here? Particularly if you've got the first or second overall pick. Like, what does that look like? And how does that influence what your offseason plan will be? And do you believe, if you're the Titans and the Titans brass, that a Shedeur Sanders or a Cam Ward is the piece to turn your franchise around? Because if you believe that, then I think the choice becomes pretty easy at that point. You take one of those two guys if that choice is available to you. If you don't believe that and you're picking at number 1 or number 2 overall, do you go a different route, whether that's an Abdul Carter, whether that's a Travis Hunter, or do you go the route of trying to get out of there and trade and move down and pick up some other assets that way? Like, it's not a bad thing to have the first or second overall pick once you get through the dog water of the season that caused you to get there in the first place. Like, being there in the offseason is a good spot to be in. The path forward, not necessarily 100% clear if they get there, though. And that's when it comes down to your decision makers and their process. And how much confidence do you have in your decision makers and their process to make the right decision for you moving forward? And that's going to be, if everybody is back, a big kind of fork in the road of where things go from here from the Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon regime.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I just think that you've got to just do the best you can with a veteran quarterback who is, the most starting quality veteran quarterback you can get. Again, it's not going to be easy, and you're a tough sell. You're a tough sell to veteran quarterbacks who are free agents. Again, it's not a great pool anyway. Maybe a trade's your best bet, but again.
And by the way,
hey, come here for a losing
just
team.
Further evidence that Sam Darnold ain't going nowhere. Like, he will be in Minnesota next year.
Yeah,
I would be stunned.
You have to. They're 14-2. They're playing to be the number 1 seed. Really, it's a really incredible story.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of them in the NFL this year, but like, I don't know if this is being talked about enough. Like, it's insane, like what they're doing. So yeah, I agree with that. Forget about him. And then anybody else who's out there, hey, come here to this terrible team. We might also draft a QB at 2, but come here with no offensive line and be a placeholder.
Yeah.
And it's just, like we just saw what happened with the Falcons and Cousins. And again, it looks like, I think Penix looks promising and all that, but I mean, there's a guy who got paid a ton and it was like, oh, wow. Okay. And then they go draft a guy.
Yeah.
So if you're a veteran quarterback looking at the Titans, you have to certainly look at that as a possibility. It's just not an attractive place, but you still have to try to get a veteran and then see what happens, because maybe the guy you believe is the guy is the one who goes 1.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what if you believe Shedeur Sanders is the guy that is the franchise changing quarterback, and you finish number 2 overall? Well, you would say, well, New England's picking number 1. They're not taking a quarterback. Probably not, but they could trade out of there to somebody who is taking a quarterback. So then, like, let's say you believe Sanders is the guy. you moving up if you're the Titans. You trying to trade with New England to get up to number 1.
Right.
And
You come through all this and
come through all that.
and then give up more draft cap.
Right.
I mean, that's
you doing that?
That's a tough one.
Or you taking a risk that you just hang tight at number 2 and somebody else jumps you and they take your guy. Like, you start to get into that because, I mean, people would say, well, if you don't get Sanders, you'll get Ward. Well, what if the evaluation of Ward is, man, we like the talent, but man, he's just all over the place with the ball. Didn't you just kind of get out of that with Will Levis? And look, don't get me wrong. I think Cam Ward's a better prospect than Will Levis was.
Yes.
But some of the same issues in terms of looseness with the football and decision-making are there in Cam Ward's game as well.
Yeah. I get the comparisons. I think, again, I think Cam Ward can do more things. He's more dynamic. I mean, again, I hope Cam Ward makes it in the NFL. If so, we're all gonna have a lot of fun watching him. He does stuff that is absurd, but then again, sometimes it's absurd in a bad way.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by him. I'd be a little bit afraid.
Well,
if I was a GM in this league, I'd be a little bit afraid of him.
I would too. And talking Carthon about this, right? Like, that's where the drafting comes in, and the GM, what you do as a draft is a huge part of what goes on your record and your job performance moving forward. But like quarterback to me this year, whether it's draft or otherwise, like, doesn't this have to be a mostly Brian Callahan decision if you're bringing him back? Like, isn't this what you brought him in for, was to develop a quarterback? So shouldn't this, if you're keeping this thing together, like, shouldn't this be basically his call as to where things go with quarterback from here? I know they're going to say they're going to collaborate and all that jazz, and that's fine. But, like, shouldn't this really be like Brian Callahan's call here as to what they do at quarterback?
Yeah, it's just like with both Callahans, Bill Callahan, and this really needs to happen, should be leading the charge on evaluating offensive linemen, both veterans and prospects, working with the scouts, the personnel people, and that should help you get better instantly, as quickly as possible. And yeah, Brian Callahan, that's his expertise, his quarterback. So who does he want to work with? There is system. I mean, good coaches fit talent to fit their system to talent more than they fit the talent to their system. But still, you have a system. I mean, this is what you're not going to completely overhaul what you do unless you're a great franchise like Baltimore, which is able to take Lamar Jackson at the end of the first round and now has maybe the best football player in the world. But for the most part, it's your system still has to be a guide for what you're doing here at quarterback. And yeah, he should be the lead voice on that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Paul Kuharski will be with us at 7:30. We'll get his thoughts on all things Titans as well. Coming up next, some panic in Knoxville as it relates to the transfer portal. We'll get into that and whether or not it's founded as they move forward here. More on that coming up next. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game for the Trans-Perfect Music City Bowl today. Chase and Big Joe will have pregame coverage starting at noon. Kickoff set for 1:30. Music City Bowl coverage is presented by Hi-Fi Buys. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com will be with us here in about 12 minutes. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him. Kuharsky got to witness that beauty in person yesterday down there in Jacksonville, so we'll get his thoughts on that.
But he did send us a picture of the urinal. Have you put that on the Twitter feed, Nick? Why? People need to see this. I want people to see.
You're grody.
Hey, man, this is just, it's an absolute.
Nobody's using it at the time the picture.
Yeah, like it's I'm not trying. Karski left the camera in there and got like real-time video.
There's a live stream of your live stream.
Literally. I keep wanting to say archaeological.
Architectural?
Agricultural. It's an architectural oddity, and I want people to see it.
Just pissing away his time watching that game, literally.
There you go. Thank you, Nick.
Nice.
I'm going to log off now.
There you go.
You should.
Well done.
Go do what Rexrode told you to do and put that picture up on the social medias. Here we go.
Yeah, man, I want people to see this.
615-737-1025, our phone number. So, Joe, an interesting weekend for the Tennessee Vols as it relates to the transfer portal. So, on Friday, there's all these rumblings about Boo Carter and him potentially hitting into the portal and leaving Tennessee and going elsewhere. Boo Carter, really good freshman player that they had, played defensive back, and I think got better as the season went on and could end up being a really good player for them over the next few years here. So some conversation about him potentially wanting to play on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, and if that didn't happen, ending up in the transfer portal. Well, apparently he had conversations with Heupel and staff on Friday, and by Friday night, right around the time the Vandy game was coming to an end, Boo Carter put it back out there that he was coming back to Tennessee. It's like, okay, well, Boo Carter's back at Tennessee. So you're looking at your wide receiver room right now. They had already lost Chaz Nimrod, Laycock, Squirrel White entered the transfer portal, which some people thought that may not happen either. So it did. So kind of a surprise there. But you looked at the wide receiver room and you're like, okay, well, it's a little light, but you got Mike Matthews. And I guess if Boo Carter is going to play wide receiver and defensive back, he's going to try to be Travis Hunter out there. Maybe you could do that if you're Tennessee. You've got Braylon Staley, some young guys that they feel good about at wide receiver. Razzle's still on the team. So, like, okay, you got some bodies there. Well, then later in the weekend, Mike Matthews looks like he is intending to enter the transfer portal. Now, On3, he's put it out there that he's intending to enter the NCAA transfer portal. He's gotten the paperwork to enter the portal, but I don't think as of right now he has officially put his name in the portal yet. So there's also now speculation that he could be coming back to Tennessee and they're working out some NIL money and all that stuff. So anyway, a dramatic weekend, particularly at wide receiver for Tennessee as it relates to the transfer portal. A lot of Vols fans just absolutely losing their minds this weekend, particularly when Mike Matthews and that stuff started to come around. What's your take on all this, Joe, as you look at Tennessee, the transfer portal, and where things currently stand specifically at wide receiver?
Yeah, look, every year, every fan base, there's people who are going to leave in the portal, and in some cases, and in most cases with Tennessee so far, it's not surprising. I mean, most of them are not surprising, right? And some of it is just as simple as, look, I'm not a top player here. I can get money to go somewhere else. We saw this with a lot of defensive guys last year going to other, right? I mean, there's always going to be overreaction to that. But I will say the Mike Matthews stuff took me by surprise. Now, like you said, I gotta get on Adam Sparks a little bit for this tweet. You know, he says Tennessee Mike Matthews plans to enter the portal per reports, and said former 5-star recruit was projected to be go-to in 25. Instead, he's also leaving. That's Sparks' tweet. I'm like, dude, are you trying to are you pouring kerosene on Vol Twitter right now? Dude, calm down. Because I still think that it's going to end up coming back to Mike Matthews going to come back. And look, what happens a lot of cases, look, these guys have agents, and it's free agency every year. Yeah. And so it's like, you know how you get paid more?
Threaten to leave.
Yeah. I mean, so you saw that. You also saw, by the way, Nico, a little cryptic post, and it's like, yeah. What the
There's
heck
all
does that
sorts
mean?
of reaction to that.
You know, I mean, and
which
that was now the same post as Squirrel White, right? It was
that's now turned into apparently Nico and Squirrel White hated each other according to Vol Twitter. So
Yeah. Well, I thought about that too when I first saw it. I was like, is he like mocking him, or is he saying I'm leaving 2 or I'm going up from 2 to 3 mil or box?
Well, there was, that I guess I can't remember if it was Saturday night or Friday night, but whichever night it was, there was a lot of, okay, so it's like Nico going to get papers to put his name in the portal, and he did not. And then his father came out with a bunch of tweets after that too. A lot of drama around this transfer portal.
Yeah. So I mean, look, Mike Matthews is critical to me.
Yeah.
Yes, you can go out and get other receivers, and they will anyway. But you gotta keep some people, some continuity. Like this Buchar thing is interesting. I think he's a tremendous talent. I don't know, playing in this offense and playing and having the role he's going to have on defense, I have my questions about that.
They do a lot of conditioning this offseason.
Yeah. Another thing about this, look, whenever because Tennessee has lost out too on some targets, like LSU they're going nuts and they beat them out for a key target on the offensive line. Tennessee, these collectives don't just deal with one sport, right? These collectives, Tennessee is a really excellent men's basketball program. Tennessee is a national championship baseball program. Tennessee is going to invest in women's basketball, and I think they've got a promising coach here early, more than a lot of other schools are. So there's money in that collective that also is going to these places, and some of these other schools, it's not as much of a priority. I do wonder when these collectives are rising and falling with the money, Yeah. And so is Tennessee a little bit short with some of these situations compared to some of their competitors? I don't know that they are, but I have thought of that.
It's an interesting question. And, the Matthews part of this is going to be, I would assume we're going to find out an answer here either today or tomorrow, somewhere in that neighborhood of what's exactly is going on there with Matthews. If they lose him, though, they're in a world of hurt right now at wide receiver. Right? I think you have 2 scholarship receivers if you lose him. So, clearly they're going to go get some guys in the portal anyway at wide receiver, even if he's back. I think that has to be a priority. If they lose him, it's hard to imagine them fielding a very good receiving room next year. You could go get a lot of guys at transfer portal, but how many of those impact guys are you going to be able to get in the transfer portal?
That's a good question. You're going to have to that's going to have to be just job one. It's hard to believe this offense with, again, 2 years ago, imagine them ever having a problem retaining receivers.
Yeah.
And again, I understand that it's money and it's more than just that, but it's like this should be a dream place, right, for receivers.
Now, look, Tennessee fans have been freaking out all weekend. There's still a scenario here where Mike Matthews is back. They go add a guy or two in the receiving core in the portal, and their receiving core looks better than it did this year. People were talking about Squirrel White. Squirrel White's a good player. Squirrel White, I think, by all accounts, had a disappointing year. Yeah. How much of that's on him, how much of it's on the quarterback, I don't know. But Squirrel White, I don't think is some insurmountable loss for them.
That's not devastating.
No,
that's not devastating. Mike Matthews will be, though. You got to make that happen. You got to keep him, and then he's got to become.
Well, you need guys. We've talked about at the end of the year. They need guys that are game breakers at wide receiver. They had it with Jalen Hyatt, and they had it with Cedric Tillman, but they've not had it since then. So if you lose Matthews, that could be a tough hill to overcome if you're Josh Heupel right now.
Yeah, I would green light to freak out if he actually. I have my doubts that it's going to happen. They know how important he is. Whatever this is, to me, it's one, here's a raise.
Yeah,
and also, look, I wouldn't blame him for being a little bit upset based on this year, based on the performance of others that they didn't get more opportunity. I think that's fair.
You're getting ready to get it, though.
But you're a freshman. And here it is.
You're about to be wide receiver 1.
Right. And Nico's going to be better next year. So you don't want to be part of that. I think they'll keep him.
Right. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Paul Kuharski will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on all things Tennessee Titans. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, the game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Titans fall again yesterday, 20-13 to Jacksonville, dropping to 3-13 on the season. Mercifully, one more game remaining in the regular season. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Paul Kuharski from PaulKuharski.com. PK, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing? Good morning.
We're good. Appreciate the photo that you sent yesterday of the bathroom set up in Jacksonville. Rexrode has thoroughly enjoyed it this morning.
Oh, wait, what?
Well,
you know what? That wasn't PK.
Was it not?
That was not me.
Oh, that's right. I incorrectly gave you. I've been giving you the credit all
All
morning.
morning.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We got to give the Titans PR actually gets credit for
There we
that.
go. There we go.
My 90-year-old mother is visiting. If you want to visit with her about who sent texts and sort through that kind of thing, I could get you some time with her, Joe.
I might need that.
Yeah.
Titans lose 20-13 again. PK, I mean, look, the results are what they are at this point, and you've now been swept by the Mac Jones-led Jacksonville Jaguars. And if you lose on Sunday against Houston, you're picking no worse than second in the draft. Walking in the locker room yesterday after the game, your takeaway of where things stand and where things go from here with 1 week left until the offseason for the Titans.
I'm just amazed at the ability for this theme of the faith in everything they're doing and all these lessons that they're learning from these losses to hold up. They're learning a lot. Someday they're going to be very, very educated from all of this learning that they're doing. And learning. They love to learn.
Learning and loving.
They don't love to win, but they love to learn. And and they love to bond, and they're bonding with 50% of the roster that's not going to be here to be bonded with next year. So learning, bonding, and experiencing. There's a lot of things going on.
You're really tender analysis there. It's very
Thank
sweet. Yeah. God.
I mean, you gotta go somewhere.
Yeah. What are you gonna do, right? I mean, my goodness, what can we talk about? Well, so this team, first of all, PK, I don't want to disrespect the amazing ball game you covered yesterday, but I just use it.
Rexrode has become
I'm
emotional.
a complete mess. Got me blubbering into the microphone. Take the question, Robby. I don't even know where to go.
Well, BK, so obviously Titans fans have now turned their attention to the draft part of this when you're talking about the help that they got around the league yesterday. And if you take care of business by losing on Sunday to Houston, you're no worse than second. How do you view kind of the path forward here? It seems like Callahan, Carthon going to be back. Do you think that where they land in the draft order could influence their plan at quarterback? In other words, could landing at number 1 or number 2 overall shift things in the direction that it's more likely that they go drafted quarterback rather than veteran quarterback?
Yeah, I don't know. And this idea, if you have the number 1 pick, you should fire people because you want a fresh start with the number 1 pick. But if you have the number 7 pick, you should keep
that
people
can stay.
because it's just kind of silly. And I mean, the week of ridiculous stuff is already going, and if we sit, I'm hearing from people, if we just sit Simmons and Sweat and Landry and Brownlee and Latham and Skoronski, we should be good to lose this.
The other
game.
guys can try really hard to win, but
Yeah.
yeah.
They've lost
They won't.
13 games playing everybody. I mean, they don't have trouble losing games. So, I don't think they have to devise some grand scheme to lose to the Texans. Also, the thing is that the Texans' main motivation to beat the Titans is going to be because the Titans are in the Oilers uniform. Yeah, the Texans are heading for the playoffs. They've been struggling lately, but their motivation to get things in order is going to be the Houston Oiler helmets that the Titans are wearing. I mean, I think
sounds like you had a great little live session last night. Is this all coming from this? Like, where are you getting these amazing nuggets?
Yes, yeah, from my live session last night. I think the Texans, haven't been playing great football, and they may need to feel the need to get things in order heading into the playoffs. So that could be a factor in their willingness to play to win, or to do so, to play a half of good football, which could be more than enough to beat the Titans. I don't think people have to be overwhelmingly worried that the Titans are going to, ball out in this game all of a sudden. Though they may, who knows what happens. We'll see if they sit a couple people or whatever. At this stage, I wouldn't have a problem with them playing to lose with everything done. But I don't think it takes nearly as much as people think.
Well, okay. First of all, they're absolutely winning this week. I guarantee you. I'll say that right now. That's what I was going to say before you made me laugh. But no, they're going to win. Also, when you say playing to lose, I mean, so you're saying lineup shifting to lose, right? Yeah.
Lineup
because one of the things I love about this league is these players like sticking it to everybody who wants a higher draft pick. I mean, it's a great thing.
No, it's not going to be anything pertaining to effort or play. It's all done at the higher level in terms of what you do. And they're not going to play.
What
Trevor
if they do
Siemian.
that? What would you think of that? If it was clear that they made a few tweaks to weaken themselves?
Look, I don't think it's in the spirit of fair play and all of that, and I don't really expect it. But we've seen it happen before, and I don't think it'd be a crime against humanity.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see what that would look like there. I'm with you, PK. Like, I don't think it's going to take a ton for the Titans to lose games. Like they found, like they are certainly capable of going out there on Sunday and losing to a Davis Mills-led quarterback Houston Texans team. There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Capable, but they won't do it.
They just lost to Mac Jones.
Exactly. I mean, like this is not some big reach there on that front. So as it relates to what you saw on the field yesterday, is there anything positive you take away from yesterday in terms of some of the younger players like Latham we spent a lot of time talking about? Where do you think things stand, particularly with that combo, Latham and Skoronski, who are going to be here next year and are going to be a big part of what they do?
Well, I mean, I think you should be set there. I think you should expect improvement. And I think, in my post-game conversation, we talked about positions of non-concern. I mean, I think the left side of the offensive line is a position of non-concern. I think cornerback's a position of non-concern. I think interior defensive line's a position of non-concern. I think running back's a position of non-concern. Beyond that, they could do work on everything. But I think at the end of last year, we said everything was open to help. Like legitimately, there wasn't a position on the roster that they didn't need help. So, if you're looking for progress, there's they have some positions that are dealt with to some degree, and that's progress in terms of roster building. If in fact the people using the roster and the people building the roster are the same, and I think Callahan certainly is going to be.
So Callahan, so the NFL.com, PK, kind of following up you guys, with you guys who cover the team with the sort of the readying everybody for the non-big moves here. We've talked earlier about the idea of the team improving this year. One of the things that internally apparently is believed that we've seen improvement. What did you think when you read those words?
No, I mean, I don't think that the team's improved this year. I don't think there's been any, I think the team that lost yesterday is pretty much the same as the team that lost. Maybe not the first couple games where Levis was doing all kinds of crazy things with the ball, but the same team that lost games after he settled down a little bit. So, I mean, I think that's one of the big disappointments of the season is that this team hasn't shown any gradual growth. And like I joked at the beginning, that all these lessons are still being learned and none of them are being applied per se. I just think that it's viewed as drastic to give a coach only 1 year. I tend to agree with that. You've got a huge off season ahead to put all of these lessons to use, to get a restocked roster again, to have a hand in choosing a quarterback that's going to be able to better apply his stuff. And you do see, I mean, there are practical applications of his scheme that work with the quarterback and will work a lot better with the quarterback with another receiver and a right tackle and a better number one tight end and a defense that gets them the ball back occasionally and all of those things. And so, I think it's as simple as that. I don't think it's a sense of excitement over wow, this team has gotten gradually better, and so it's going to pick up where it left off.
So learning application. It's kind of like you as a philosophy major at Columbia, just like swaying out in the meadow, playing hacky sack with your spliffs, kind of the same idea.
Yeah, we call it the lawn, not the meadow.
The lawn. Oh, my bad.
It is in the middle of Manhattan. You should come visit it. There's a lot for you to learn there. And I could teach you political science, but not philosophy.
Political science major. Yes.
Even better.
I love it.
Even better. PK, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it as always. And we will talk to you soon. Happy New Year.
I'm sorry we can't all, come out to the middle of nowhere and lay around in our own farm that have more of that college experience for you.
Wow. Shot at
Sparty. You had a chance to really hit his zinger, and you kind of fell short there, buddy. But you can try again later.
I wasn't prepared.
Thank you, PK.
I traveled and covered a football game. Which dud are they sending you to on this week?
No, I'm with the Hoosiers. I was with the Hoosiers. The Hoosiers died. For me. I get to stay home.
My God, you're barely employed, man.
Exactly. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you, PK.
See ya.
Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharsky.com, our guest, joins us every Monday at 7:30 after the Titans game. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
What are your emotions like right now?
Embarrassed. Just felt like everything was in arm's reach until it wasn't. So it's just indescribable, to be honest.
This is our Colts. This is our team. We bleed blue. This is our Colts. Whether win or lose, we love them. For the shoe, beat the Titans. Let's show them that we'll horseshoe them up. This is our team. Go Colts!
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours.
I mean, that was spectacular. That was better than I thought. That was spectacular. A couple quick things before I get to the Colts. First of all, I've had some text line reaction on Vanderbilt's big win over Georgia Tech. We haven't talked about that today. It was a great game, fun game to watch. Pretty convincing win for Vanderbilt. They actually got a couple calls, which is like, wow, Vanderbilt got some calls. No way. But Georgia Tech fans acted kind of like, I don't know, like it was like the worst officiating of all time.
Coach looked like he was going to murder somebody.
Yeah, he's a scary dude. One thing about that I will say, and so I can bring it to the rivalry, involve Twitter, like Diego Pavia put like whatever he tweeted, the thing with him like with the cigar or whatever. Vol Twitter like kind of like went off on it, and I'm kind of here. I'm kind of here for the whole thing. You know, it's like, well, why do you care about Vanderbilt celebrating their bowl game? But
leave the cigars alone, apparently.
A lot of yeah. Well, that's true. The cigars, that is a kind of a Vol thing. I thought that was funny. Also, text line today, as we were talking about Cam Ward, a lot of people reacting to that, and I do expect, you know, at some point, Big Joe to spend like an hour on how Cam Ward quit on his team. You know, I'm here for that. Let me say real quick. First of all, like I mean, we didn't even talk about it because I couldn't care less. Like this has nothing to do with the NFL, in my opinion. Like at this point, I was surprised he played a snap. Yeah, I think it appears that he played to get the touchdown record, which Dylan Gabriel might break, by the way, and then he was going to sit after that. So people are saying he quit on his team, so I don't want him on my NFL team. Well, then you're dumb. I'm evaluating him as a player. The fact that he played I guarantee you his agent is like, do not step on that freaking field in this exhibition that means nothing and get yourself hurt before you're about to be the number 1 or number 2 pick, but he played part of the game. So to me, he actually played more than I would have expected. This whole thing, I mean, it's almost a decade now of people opting out of bowl games or not opting out of bowl games. Like, Jake Butt did from Michigan and blowing his knee, and Florida State's running back whose name eludes me, blowing his knee in the bowl game that meant nothing. I mean, like
Jalen Milroe's playing. He's not going to quit on his team.
There you go. Now the Colorado guys played, so I guess Shadur Sanders played, so I guess he should be the number 1 pick, period. Forget the evaluation of the players.
Didn't go so well.
I just don't know why this is, like, at this point, we're still talking about this stuff. I mean, you can hate it if you want, but like it's pretty typical, especially for guys who are going at the top of the draft. Now, let's talk about the Colts. I think they are the most poverty franchise in the AFC South. I think that they, and I'm saying this a day after the Titans and Jaguars at 3-12 played each other in a rainstorm in front of 9 people. And some people, by the way, in the text line are telling me, Robby, they did show a shot of people in the Milky Pool. I missed that.
I missed it.
But apparently that's the case.
I was not locked into every snap in that one yesterday. I'm sorry to admit.
The Indianapolis Colts gave up 42 points to the New York Giants and Drew Lock yesterday in a game they had to have to make the playoffs. Like, they're choking at the end of years in games they have no business losing is truly amazing. And of course, you think back to the Jacksonville trip. I think it was 3 years ago. Do you know that the Colts have 1 playoff win in the last 11 years? 1 playoff win. And by the way, 1 playoff win and 2 playoff appearances in the last 11 years. They are absolute buns. And I don't think they get enough credit for being the disastrous franchise that they are. And I think yesterday they proved it. And I hope more people take notice of this. I saw that Pat McAfee had some huge meltdown on Twitter and calling them effing losers and all this stuff, because apparently he's been, outcast.
Wow.
Because he's been critical and so he's been made the villain, and now he's like, I told you all. Basically, they're a bunch of weak-minded losers. So I mean, this is going really well, guys. Your famed former punter has completely turned on you too.
Wow.
Like Chris Ballard. Like if Chris Ballard still has his job at this point, more than like another week, then I think we can start looking at their ownership, which of course, you know, had plenty of fun with Irsay, and seriously questioning like any sense of reality there. Like, how could he possibly continue in that job after this amount of time? Other than that, you know, in some years he's been called like the greatest builder of teams of all time for like no apparent reason.
Well, then the week before this, they ran for 335 yards on the Tennessee Titans. It's just beautiful.
They did.
Great stuff.
And they're up 38-7. And they almost let the Titans back into the game, by the way, but they did at least win that game. It's truly amazing. Like, for the Giants are all-time bad.
They're bad. Real bad.
And they just tore you up in a game you had to have. And of course, the Giants fans are mad too because they've just blown it up. One pick. But it really is. Like, the Colts, I think, are the most. And by the way, look at all these franchises. Man, I can't say much good for the Titans, okay? The Jags do have Trevor Lawrence, and at least they have a pretty good quarterback. You know, Texans have their guy. But, you know, the Colts are sitting here tied to Anthony Richardson, and I don't know how you feel good about that right now. It's terrible.
It would be hard to feel great about it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Corey Curtis will be with us coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Monday morning. Titans lose in Jacksonville to drop to 3-13 on the season. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend from News 2 and public enemy number 1 in Duval, Corey Curtis, to the program. Corey, good morning. How are you?
Do they have posters of me up down there?
Yeah, they do. There were dozens of people at that game yesterday, Corey, that were looking for a piece of you. Dozens.
Oh, wow. Dozens.
Well, what a scene. What a scene.
Just beautiful stuff yesterday. So the Titans are now 3-13. The losing, not a new thing, but you did get swept by Mac Jones and the Jags this year. So that's tough to do. What'd you make of that one yesterday for the Titans?
Yeah. That's bad. That's bad. It's just, I thought, look, I know that they wanted to control the ball. I know that it was wet. I just thought in the first half, they weren't aggressive going down the field with the football at all. I mean, Calvin Ridley had one catch at halftime. I thought Ridley was going to have a big day yesterday. I thought they would really try to involve him and get him some yards and try to move the ball. And it just, no, it wasn't. They have 19 points in 120 minutes, 2 hours of football, 19 points against the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. And that's tough. And, Rudolph was okay yesterday. I guess to me, he looked like a backup quarterback yesterday. They've got to get more from that position next year from somebody, because he's got 2 throws at the end of that game to tie it or have a chance to win that you got to make. The ball to Okonkwo, you got to complete.
He's
that.
wide open.
You got to complete that, and really the ball to Westbrook-Akine at the end, that needs to be complete too. He threw it a little behind him and a little late. If he arcs it a little bit more, leads him a little bit more, that's 6 points. And you can say, well, that's close, blah 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 blah. That's the position, and they need more from it. And that's not picking on Rudolph. That's from him, Levis, whoever. They need more from that position.
So I just want to point out, Corey is now talking about the possibility of Levis and Rudolph both quarterbacking this team next year. My goodness, Corey, what are you trying to do to the people?
I can't pick another quarterback until they have one, guys.
Well, yeah, no doubt. But we would all agree that they will, right? If one, if not 2 new names, right? I mean, like it seems to me, Corey, and I'm not saying it's inaccurate, but it seems to me that, I read the NFL.com, Tom Pelissero, I think it was Pelissero, right?
Pelissero and Rappaport.
And Rappaport report on the Titans, sort of, getting everybody braced and ready for the Titans not firing anybody. That quarterback is the quarterback failures are going to be scapegoated for this season. And again, I'm not saying that it's not a huge part of it. It's right up there among the biggest reasons, but when you read that, what did you think? And don't you think that also means that, that quarterback is about to be seriously changed?
Well, I mean, they have to have a plan. That's for sure. And look, there's a lot. I mean, special teams was awful at points this year. You give up 335 yards rushing to the Colts, last week. But you can point to the quarterback position, in round 1 against the Jaguars. You've got a couple opportunities to score that you absolutely, you should have. Special teams and quarterback cost you the Bears game. After a really good first half, you gave it away. And we can go down the list of some other games where, you're sitting here at 3-13, where, you could easily be 6-10, whatever. That's still not great, but it's not where you're at right now. And they just, like I said, they need more from that spot. And it's about time we heard something from somebody about what was going to happen next year, because everybody's looking. And I just don't know how many good options that they have to find someone. You know, they're going to have a chance, it looks like, to draft somebody, you know, unless they luck up and beat Davis Mills next week somehow. But yeah, I mean,
they're going to win.
You think so?
Rexrode's very confident.
Absolutely. Because they have such a great reward for losing. They're absolutely going to win this game. We all need to acknowledge this.
Okay. I mean, look, they just lost to Mac Jones twice. And I know Stillman's got Mac Jones labeled as the next Sam Darnold.
I saw that.
Really?
Oh, my gosh.
He wants Mac Jones to be the quarterback next year.
Yeah. Mac Jones
he wants him to be the Titans quarterback?
That is correct.
I'm missing so much great stuff. Oh, my goodness.
He has 2 wins, both against the Titans, and that has him loving Mac Jones, which is fine. But, yeah, I mean, look, there's not a lot of great options out there. And I don't, you know, we talked about some of the ones that are there, like Jake Browning and Derek Carr, and, you know, do any of them move the needle a lot? You know, if it's Sanders or Ward, you know, you're rolling the dice. You know, you don't know, and whoever it is, you know, everybody comes back next year. Their jobs are all on the line, dependent on the guy pulling the trigger at quarterback.
Yeah,
I mean, all of them. I'll never forget, this is a long story. I'll make it shorter because I know I'm long-winded. When Mike Munchak was the head coach and they drafted Jake Locker, I was walking down the hall at St. Thomas Sports Park and talking to Munch. And I said, hey, you like the kid? He's like, I love him. I said, you better, because your job is counting on him. And it didn't work out. And he didn't work out. You know, he ended up, you know, not being here. You know, they had bigger problems than that at the time, but it's just everybody's job is tied to that position largely. And, you know, it'll be on full display next year because if they don't get it right, the Ian Rappaport report at the end of the season will be different.
Well, and to that point, let's operate under the assumption that the coaching staff maybe save a change here or there with, you know, special teams, and we'll see what else they decide to do. But largely the coaching staff is back and the front office is back in place. A lot of Titans fans aren't going to like that. What do you make? What do you make of that decision if that's the route the Titans go?
Well, first off, you can't make decisions based on what the fans think. All right, you just that's not how you do your job. You have to trust what your brain and your football people are telling you. And, you know, I always go back to the Lions. You know, it was not good under Dan Campbell the first bit, but they trusted it and they trusted what they were seeing. And, you know, if Amy and the other brass there trust what they're seeing and say, we need to get more the right players in here more than different coaches, then that's the way that they need to go. But if you think, hey, it's not working out, but we got to see if we can get this to work out, that's just hoping and being cheap or whatever. But if you still think that these guys can do it, then you can stick with them. And there's X's and O's stuff that you can look at and say, oh, Brian Callahan's got a good play here. Brian Callahan's got a good play here. And, you know, Bill Callahan's made this guy better. And, you know, Darnell Wilson still has the number 1 pass defense in the league. And, you know, they've had all these injuries. You can find all the reasons. But then you could also point to 2 stats to say that this isn't a very well coached football team. Number 1 in the league in penalties, number 1 in the league in turnovers. I mean, those aren't good stats. And like I said, I like Callie and I want him to succeed, but those aren't good numbers. And those are the numbers that have really gotten this team beat all season long.
What's the most buns poverty franchise in the AFC South?
You know,
stumped him.
No, look, You know I'm going to say Jacksonville.
I knew you were.
I was giving you a chance
He's
to
gotta
change,
keep that
man.
title.
I was giving you a chance to change.
No, I mean, look, guys, they have 4 winning seasons in 20 years.
All right.
4.
That's a pretty good
tough.
stat. All right. But the
All
Colts
right,
have 2 playoff appearances and 1 playoff win in the last 11 years, and the Jags have done better than that.
Yeah. I mean, when was the last time the Jags won a playoff game?
It was within that time. They had the Patriots
they went
beat.
to the AFC
Jags won a
Championship,
playoff
right?
game a couple years
the
ago.
AFC title game.
Yeah, it was the AFC said because they beat Pittsburgh, inexplicably beat Pittsburgh, and then lost to Patriots. But like other than that, like 1 year, everything else is straight up trash. I mean, trash. It's like the Cardinals going to the Super Bowl. I mean, outside of that, it's trash.
I just wanted you to say the Colts because, like, I just think yesterday was.
Oh no, I love to rail on the Colts too,
incredible.
because look, the Jaguars fan base is more mystifying with their view of their team than anyone in the world. That they always think that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender every year. At least this year, most sane people didn't think the Titans were going to be great. They thought to be about 500 at best. But with the Colts, the NFL is more mystifying than anyone. The NFL props the Colts up like they're this contending franchise every year, and they have not been relevant in over a decade. I mean, it's just why did Anthony Richardson miss this game? Because he was sore?
No, I will say
I threw 7 passes the week before. That arm got to ice it up.
I will say, given the people who cover the team, they had pretty severe back spasms, but somebody put soreness out there, and that was BS. So that's what Stephen Holder reported. So.
Okay. Yeah. Look, because if that's a tough one for a guy who came out of who needed a timeout because he was tired.
Well, there is that.
I mean,
you're talking yourself into the Colts.
Well, no, I mean, look,
the answer is the Titans, boys.
I can bang.
They also have a claim.
Yes, that is the answer.
Yeah.
Current state of things, the Titans have a claim.
The Titans, the last 3 years, look, the Titans had what, a 6-year run of winning football.
Yes.
Okay.
16
now,
to
the
22.
last 3 years. And the thing about the last 3 years is they're not just losing, but the trajectory is down.
Right.
Now, next year, if the trajectory stays down, that's hard to do. Then you're looking at 1 or 2 wins. But it's possible. We saw Wisenhunt era go from what? Oh, did they go from 2 to 3? That's right. Malarkey pulled out 2 wins, didn't he?
Yeah,
I think so.
That's right.
Yeah, he beat the Saints and the Jags. Yeah. So,
big improvement.
Yeah. It's look, all 3 of them. I mean, well, gosh, the Texans have had a good run, but the Texans started out horribly. And then before last year, after the D-Hop horrific trade and, the Deshaun Watson, masseuse scandal, I mean, that was a dumpster fire. I mean, that was a dumpster fire, and they were horrible. But I think they've got a more track record of winning some games lately.
Yep, no doubt about it. Corey, thank you for your time as always, my friend. Happy New Year to you, and we will talk to you soon.
You know how like they have relegation in soccer, and we always talk about if they have relegation in the NFL. What if they relegated just like a whole division and like they moved like the SEC, move the SEC into the NFL, move the AFC South into college.
I'm here for it.
I like it. SEC isn't winning any bowl games, but I like it.
More entertaining football.
Yeah. By the way, let's go Notre Dame.
Hey, all righty. Thank you, Corey. Corey Curtis joins us every Monday morning at 8:00 here on the program. We'll react to what he had to say. Coming next, take more of your thoughts on the Titans. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away, a 4-pack of tickets to Monster Jam at Bridgestone Arena on Saturday, January the 4th. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025. Our phone number, 615-737-1025. Caller number 3 will win a 4-pack of tickets to see Monster Jam at Bridgestone Arena coming up on Saturday, January the 4th. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Up with the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. PK has weighed in on our poverty franchise discussion in the AFC South.
Yep.
He says proximity bias. Poverty franchise right now is the Titans. They've been swept by the Colts and the Jags.
Right. Okay. So, well, that's PK with recency bias. So, and this is one of those things where you got to define the terms. If we're defining, again, I went back to 11 years, Colts, 2 playoff appearances, 1 playoff win, along with the late season chokes that they've now had. Yes, they needed help this year, but like you beat the Giants. I mean, of course you go beat the freaking Giants and Drew Lock. And so if we're taking any recent, like, past seasons relatively recently into account, the Titans obviously have that 6-year run that Corey mentioned. They have multiple playoff wins. They have multiple division titles. They have an AFC title run. If we're just talking right at this moment, then yeah, the Titans have a great case. I mean, I guess really who has the worst situation right now and moving forward, then it's a different discussion. I was talking history with the Colts too. If it's who has the worst situation, start with ownership. Okay, let's see.
Well, this is quite the division for that.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, the ownership in this division, are we surprised at the lack of success in this division? It kind of does go hand in hand, doesn't it?
I
mean, Khan, Adam Strunk, and Irsay are just absolutely just on a roll right now. And, as you pointed out in the break, it's not like the McNairs are like setting the standard for professional sports ownership.
Yeah, it's really is. When you look at it, it's a heck of a division on the ownership front in terms of just, I mean, look, you've got, and it's different. Like Amy Adams Strunk, very likable person, has done at times a good job here in terms of, she's made some good hires and gotten out of the way, and they've had a run of success. He's also torpedoed.
That did happen in the past.
Yes.
So if we're counting that,
she's also torpedoed some things as well. I mean, Jacksonville, as Corey has pointed out, has been a disaster for 2 decades. And then I don't even like, who knows what Jim Irsay does. He's off in the bus somewhere with a Jimi Hendrix guitar doing God knows what. So like there's
strumming it, hopefully.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting cats in this division.
So it's like owner, front office, coach, quarterback. New coach coming into Jacksonville. All right, now very huge questions about the coach here. Huge questions to me about the coach in Indy. I still like the coach in Houston. Front office probably is bad here, as there's the track record's not good, and then quarterback is TBD. But I still think Indy, though, if the quarterback is just they're tied to him next year.
You would think.
I think. And right now, it's not a comforting thought.
Let's go
Titans have freedom. Yay!
Back to our 102.5 The Game phone line. Welcome in Adam in Portland. Adam, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
It's the Jags, dude. Like 100% the Jags. Oh,
but they have a decent quarterback. They do have like a pretty good quarterback. Do we agree or no?
You and I have very different definitions of pretty good. They have a okay quarterback.
Yeah, he was a great national champion level quarterback in college, man. I agree with you on that. So I don't think he deserved a second contract other than just being Trevor Lawrence, whatever. But they've never moved past Brunell's team, man. They really didn't. Like, they're still struggling with that. If you call down there and talk to these radio stations and try to like poke at the fans a little bit, they're still super salty over that 99 team. I like to do that every once in a while. I mean, you can only call you guys so much, man. So I like to call them every once in a while. And
hell yes,
super
good for you.
Super salty. But look, man. At the same time, I've been ready to pull the plug on this season since before Thanksgiving. Like, it's been painful for Titans fans. So I can't really say much. But if you see the way the Jaguars reacted yesterday after winning that game, they think they won something with that. Like, they lost and don't even realize they lost. That's how bad they are. So yeah, they're the worst. They're the worst franchise. I think behind Cleveland, they're the worst franchise in the NFL, like, historically.
There you go. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Joe, when we come back,
it's kind of like how you want to do the. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
When we come back, a friend of the show is calling for Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker's job. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Joe, a friend of the show, calling for the jobs of Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker. Gentry Estes with a scathing column at the Tennessean. Tennessean.com is where you can check this out. And this is not the first column that Gentry has wrote in the last few weeks, being critical of the Tennessee Titans. He basically roasted Amy Adams-Strunk, 3-4 weeks ago at this point, about how basically the problems the organization are seeing right now stem from her and that there are an offshoot from her leadership within this organization. And we talked about a lot about that at the time. But an interesting piece that he's come out with today about the job now in front of the Titans and two members who should not be doing this job. I'll read a very quick little piece of this. It's time for meaningful change, and it should start by moving on from the tandem of General Manager Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker, the President of Football Operations. There's no sugarcoating this anymore. It's bad, really bad. Maybe the worst it's ever been for the Titans in Tennessee. This isn't a quick fix. It's going to take time to get back to respectability, and that's the best reason for Amy Adams Strunk to shake things up now. Should Carthon and Brinker be retained in their current roles, they'll be fighting for their jobs under so much pressure to win immediately in 2025 that they naturally make short-sighted moves based on self-preservation rather than pursuing the long-term reset this franchise needs. So Gentry Estes calling for the firing of Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker. Your reaction to that?
It's a great column by Gentry. Another great column. And let me just say on a personal note, Gentry is stepping up, man. He's stepping up big time, and I'm proud of him. I mean, I think he's doing a great job. He's doing what a local sports columnist should do, and I don't disagree with anything he wrote in this column. I really don't. I mean, I think he lays out the bad nature of this situation for the Titans. It's just, I mean, again, like the question of, I guess the question is like, if you were the owner, would you fire these guys, right? If you frame it that way, I will continue to say with absolutely no confidence whatsoever that I'd give them another year. Again, not saying I want them back. I think they're great. I think they've done some good things. I do think that the self-preservation element of this is a really interesting thing, and we've talked about that some. Like, that's just something that, like, if you own the team, you can't let that happen, right?
I don't know how you thread that needle, though.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that effectively.
You do that effectively because everybody talks and they're all getting along great, right? They all collaborate, right? Yeah. I mean, that is a thing, right? Is that a thing or is that not a thing? Right. No, I mean, you're right. It's a terrible situation. Again, I agree with everything Gentry wrote. It's a very well laid out argument for them to lose their jobs. If Amy Adams Strunk were to fire the front office, which the Titans are putting out serious indications that she won't. Right. But if she were to do that, there wouldn't be the outrage would be about another, great. So now this owner is going to stumble and bumble and hire the next person who won't get it done and then fire them and hire, you know what I mean? Like, the outrage will be so this owner has no clue. And again, I understand people have already been saying that, but it increases in volume if you do that. But as far as like these guys, they haven't proved much. The question is, to me, it's kind of like, how much of the pre-existing condition is to blame for this? I think some. And how much have they done to make it worse?
Yeah.
In 2 years. The record is what it is. It's 9-24? It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's how much is their job performance made things worse. And obviously, as Gentry wrote, look at all the money they spent. Look at the Snead thing. I think that's a huge one here. The Snead giving up a third. The sort of two different, so you're rebuilding or you're spending all this money to win now. You checked every box. The checked every box interview.
In retrospect, it's just incredible.
Do you have that, by the way, Nick? Since we're talking about all this stuff, I know that I'm just springing this on you out of nowhere. That would be worth it before the show ends. It really is like, dude, what are you
It's pretty
talking
incredible.
about? So look, it's a totally fair thing. And if it were to happen, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and say, man, these guys were just about to, well, some might, but I don't think too many people are going to say these guys were just about to
right
just
on the
set
doorstep.
the world on fire. But again, the outrage is this owner seriously just completely incapable of interviewing people, evaluating people, anything? That's the outrage.
Well, that's the outrage, and she may be. It doesn't change the job these guys have done to me. Like, I have now fully shifted into clean house. That's where I'm at. They're not going to do it, so I don't know how much time I should waste talking about it. But like, I would be totally fine if at the end of next week, at the beginning of next week, they came out and said that Brian Callahan and his coaching staff were fired, and that the front office was fired, and that they were completely starting over. Like, that's how bad it's been. It's been a combination of just total mismanagement from the front office part of this, which we've talked extensively about at this point. And the coach and the team has not gotten any better. Like we joked earlier in the show about improvement. They've not improved at all. Like you can make the argument they've gotten worse throughout the year. So I would be totally fine with moving on from everyone. I just know they're not going to do that next week.
But see your point there. It's like Wes in Clarksville on the text line driven by WilsonCounty.com. And it's Gentry also wrote in there, by the way, he wouldn't fire Callahan, but obviously it could be part of the situation. Wes in Clarksville says, but don't we technically have a better roster than last year? On paper, we've improved, but it's gotten drastically worse, which again, you could say, actually, the problem this year is the coaching. It's not the GM. It's more the coaching.
Well, can you make the argument that they're a better roster on paper? Probably. I mean, the Jerry Sneed's a big part of this thing to me. Like he's nowhere to be found. By the way, you gave up a 3rd-round pick for that, which, as Austin Stanley from A to Z Sports pointed out either late last night or early this morning, which I think is going to be the 66th overall pick right now for Kansas City. So good stuff there. And he's nowhere to be found on the field. Owuzi's barely been on the field this year. Like there's a lot roster-wise that's going on here. And by the way, you hired this coaching staff, which is also on you if you're the front office. Like that's part of this too. And
for sure,
Rand is the guy that said they got all their first choices at coach. He's the one who said that. So, like, it's just the
public messaging is definitely it's a problem. We'll go with this.
I'm not going to sit here and say
lack of it and bad.
There's no path out of this because the path out of this is you find a quarterback this offseason. That's the path out of this. But as Gentry points out in the article here, and you can, again, check this out, really good piece by him at Tennessean.com. It just feels hopeless. Like there's nothing really to point to with this team right now and say, yeah, we feel great about that moving forward. I mean, it's just they're as down bad right now as they have ever been. And I include the Wisenhunt years in that.
Lenny says, here's a question. If a new owner came in, do you think the new owner would keep anyone? It's a good question. But again, the difference there is this owner interviewed these people, went through all the things. And so I would say the answer would probably be no, Lenny, right? That you're going to come in, you want your own people. But this owner made all these huge moves, including stunning moves the last 2 years to get to this. And now,
so what's worse? Like sticking with that another year and just like doubling down on how wrong you are? Or going ahead and ripping the Band-Aid off now? I mean, it's bad both ways. Don't
the
get me
answer
wrong.
is yes, Robby.
Yeah, like it's not good. It's not good. By the way, I think Nick has found the Carthon clip.
Okay, here we go.
Every box. This was from Rand Carthon in the preseason.
Preseason.
And I was looking at the sheet that the offensive staff had broke down in terms of our needs going into the offseason. And, we could, I'll show you guys later, but we literally checked every single box. Wow. From what we felt like we needed in starters to the furthest backup. And we were able to hit every single one of those. So, and that's what we really set out to do. Really set out to, wasn't necessarily like, hey, we got to flip this roster, but it was like, let's fill these holes and these needs that we have.
There you go.
Wow. Did Charles Davis, holy crap.
Did you really?
Did Charles Davis pick the Titans to go 13-4 going the season after that interview? It sounds amazing. And that's the thing. It's like, and this is where it's also funny on our part. It's like we demand more, like Rand talking, but then it's like, well, if you're the Titans, like maybe not as much. Can we not?
No, I want more. If you're going to do this, just double down on it. I want to hear it.
No, look, I have no, again, like some of the texts out there, whether you want to bring them back. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to bring anyone back. I want to fire everyone and then I don't know. I'm just saying, if you pose it to me like you are the owner, I'm going to assume that like I have some knowledge of competence behind the scenes.
I mean, apparently they think they're improving behind the scenes, according to the NFL.com article, which is just stunning. Like, I don't know how you could possibly think that. Even if you're like, man, I'm out there watching practice every day, you wouldn't believe the way these guys practice. Like, you wouldn't believe how good they are in practice. It's like, well, that's great, but it doesn't really mean anything if it doesn't show up on game day, does it?
Yeah, that one is. I mean, again, it's like a week after you had a FCS rushing defense against Alabama.
35 yards on the ground to Indianapolis. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. Pred's Pick to Click coming up next. Be the first caller. 615-737-1025. If you guess a goal scorer for the Preds tonight, you win a pair of tickets to a future Nashville Predators home game. We'll do that. Give our final thoughts on the Titans as well. Get to more of your thoughts as well on our text line. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's time for Preds Picks to click.
And a shot at the score.
Do you think you know who will score a goal in tonight's Predators game?
Little give and go.
Shoot your shot for a chance to win Preds tickets. Call 615-737-1025 now. It's Pick to Click, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Preds Pick to Click here on Robby and Rexrode. Preds in action tonight, taking on the Winnipeg Jets. Puck drop at 6:30, pregame at 5:30 on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Standings continuing to have some movement in the competition. Rexrode on the board again last time out, as was I, which brings the overall standings. Rexrode in first place, 8 correct answers. I'm in second with 5. The listeners in third with 4. Keezer in fourth with 3.
Yikes.
Competition heating up. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Kenny. Kenny, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Who is your pick to click for the Nashville Predators?
I'm going with the hot hand, Jonathan Marchessault.
Going with Marchessault. Kenny, thanks for the call. 8-game point
you.
streak for Jonathan Marchessault. I think he scored in 5 straight. So good pick by Kenny there. I am up next. I will go. He's due. He gets it tonight. Forsberg.
No,
It's been forever.
you did it.
It's been forever since he scored. I'll go Forsberg. Marchessault, Forsberg off the board. Rexrode, your pick to click.
Oh, I'm not last this time. Oh, you guys keep trying. It's like the NFL draft, The guy on top just keeps picking last usually, but I get next to last this time. Okay. It worked out for me. I'll keep going with Stamkos.
Marchessault, Forsberg, Stamkos on the board. Nick Keezer, your pick to click for the Nashville Predators.
No, I am not going with Parson and Adam Vingan, who's in the back of my ear, who just got traded. Get out of here. He's been scratched 21 games. All right, I'm going to go with the captain, Roman Josi.
Job, Vingan.
You don't want to take Vinny Hinostroza?
No.
Okay, just checking. Josi, the selection. Marchessault, Forsberg, Stamkos, Josi. The selections today in Preds Pick to Click. I will have your pregame show at 5:30 tonight here on 102.5 The Game, so make sure you're tuned in for that.
I'll be dialed in.
You better be.
A couple quick things on the text line. Brian Summers, good point by him on the Rand thing. He says, never picked on it before today, but he said during the whole thing about the quote, the list the offensive staff gave him.
Yeah.
So, you could listen to that thing and we can go back to maybe we should blame the coaches more than the front office. I'm just saying.
That makes me even more convinced that they should clean house at the end of the year.
Here's Cam on the text line. Someone getting fired or selling the team, something needs to happen. I thought my job sucked until this season, and now I feel bad for everyone at 102.5 The Game because it's literally the same conversation over and over again. Preds or Titans, doesn't matter. Talking about next season since mid-November. Pray for the voices at 102.5 The Game. Thank you, Cam. We're still having fun, though.
Yeah, we're fine.
We're having fun. We have Kaharski to make fun of. Come on. We're all right.
It's true.
God, it does kind of suck, though. You're right, Cam. It kind of sucks.
Look, if you're right and what happens next weekend goes the way that you think it's going to go, and the Titans beat the Texans to ruin getting the first or second overall pick, it's going to
demonstrating progress, by the way.
A freaking all-timer
Making
show on Monday.
Making the owner happy, by the way.
If they go out there and they are able to somehow get past my guy Davis Mills and they win that game, it will be an all-timer.
It's my lock. I'm telling you, it's my lock right now. It's my lock right now. They're going to win. They're going to screw it up. And Amy's going to be happy. They're going to be wearing their Oilers uniforms. She's going to say, look, guys, see? There's progress. There's improvement. Let's go ahead. Roll it forward.
Look, I'm with you. Like, the guys on the team are never going to quit.
Oh, hell no.
They're not going to oh, good.
We
can get another draft.
They revel in the idea of screwing up the draft.
They
do. Love the idea.
So I fully understand that. If there was ever a game like in franchise history that they need to lose, like Sunday's near the top, just go ahead and round this thing off and get to 3-14 and take your shot.
Except we think that the front office is coming back. So maybe it's better for them to not let the front office screw up that pick. How about that? See?
Well,
how about that reverse psychology?
If you're aiming, tell them to trade out of it. Who cares? But my goodness, I can't wait for them to win this game. Our show next Monday, people are going to lose their minds.
Well, it'll be like, the show that comes to mind is the game after Malik Willis and the Packers came in here and beat them, except the anger after the win.
Yes.
months later when we realize that they are complete buns.
Yeah, like it's got a chance to be an all-timer on Sunday. I mean, if they lose, it's like, okay, thank God this season's over. And then you immediately you start to say
The offseason it's fun.
Yeah, it's like right there. Like, so
Sure.
you've got a lot of things to talk about. But if they win this game and end up picking 5th or 6th, I mean, you still got a chance to get a good player there, but my goodness.
Right, but it's like at that point you're talking about, who are you talking about? Like, is there a tackle who you can talk yourself into at that spot? Or
Luther Burton's going to look great.
Yeah, there you go. Luther Burton. Yeah, I like Luther Burton. Don't get me wrong, I like Luther Burton.
Is he playing today in the Music City Bowl?
I would guess not.
Probably not.
So, but if he does play half the game, apparently then he'll quit on his team if he doesn't play the other half.
With that, so are you now convinced that the Titans can't draft Cam Ward because he only played in a half the other day?
Exactly. He quit on his team. I mean, it didn't matter. Christian McCaffrey, that's fine. He's good. Like dozens and dozens of other guys who have not played at all. They didn't. I don't know, man.
Shedeur played.
Shedeur did play.
Milrose playing.
Travis Hunter played.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter on that one little pass that he took. Like, geez. Sometimes I want, like, maybe he is better as a receiver. I don't know. I think he's a corner, but
that's
goodness.
the thing. Like, let's say for the sake of this discussion that they love Travis Hunter. Where are you playing him? So you're gonna, because they definitely need a wide receiver way more than they need a cornerback right now. But a lot of people think he's going to be a better NFL corner.
I do. I tend to believe so. But listen,
You're the Titans. Are you promising that he can be the next Boo Carter and play both sides of the football? That's what we do here in the state of Tennessee. You just take your best defensive back and you play both sides of the ball.
That's right.
It's the future.
Or they get in the portal. I think Travis Hunter, the Titans may have some corners, although they never play. Travis Hunter, if you have him as a number one corner that I think he can be in this league, I think you're pretty happy. And then you give him a little offense here and there, a little return game, maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
See, that's the type of thing we can talk about if they lose, which they're not going to do. Lock it down right now. Guarantee. Titans going to win.
Texans playing the long game. They just come in here and lose twice to the Titans. It's like, hey, we'll just keep those guys down in the gutter.
And guess what? Now their owner is happy, and it's going to be status quo.
Yeah.
We win. Yay, Texans. No, I'm telling you, man. Davis Mills, it's setting up so beautiful.
I guess my parting message to Titans fans is, hey, it's almost over. You got one more week of this. But man, do they really need to lose on Sunday now? I mean, what a nice way to end the season that would be if they just screwed up having the number 2 overall pick.
And to follow up Cam's message, thank you for praying for us. We're also praying for you. Let's pray for each other.
Yes, let's do that. In the mighty words of Arden Key from last week. That does it for us today. DVD is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the sunshine.